prayers have been answered, and finally, the doors have reopened for fans to return to Impact Wrestling. We're going to talk about the excitement with that and a little bit of other little things that kind of came about on this week's episode of Impact Wrestling on Access TV. So stay tuned, folks, because we're getting ready to dive into this week's hot topic. What's up, everybody? It's not Jared alongside of Miranda, and we're back for this week's review of Impact Wrestling on Access TV, where we dive into this week's hottest topic. Now, while a lot of things came out in regards to the show, and even before the show, from the before the Impact, which, you know, the legendary Iron Man match was just fantastic, which I'm just going to quickly say, if you haven't seen it, I think as of, I forget the time, it's either 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They're going to release the whole video uncut on their YouTube, so you can check it out straight through, which is great because that was the only thing, is the momentum was high and the commercials were breaking. So it's good that they're doing that. And, you know, Josh Alexander and TJP, they worked their ass off. It was an amazing match. And I also want to give the hats off to Impact and to doing it the way they did it. I thought it was genius to put it on before the Impact and then slide it over into Impact, because what you're doing is you're bringing your fans and your viewers all over too. And it just makes sense to do so. So hats off to them to doing that. But as I said when we started, is prayers have been answered and we are returning in person to an Impact show. Tickets went on sale as of today. Well, it tried to go on sale at 10 p.m. each time, but the link was bad. So they kind of put out the link about 30 minutes later. And we'll talk about the specifics of the ticket sales and whatnot, but I'm so excited. I'm really, really am. Me and Miranda, we just found out. I mean, the news came out about the conclusion of Impact last night. So about 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We haven't talked about our logistical plans with it yet, but we've been speaking highly about how we've been wanting to get back in there. So whether it works in our schedule or not, we're just happy to know that there's a little bit of normalcy coming on here with Impact. And, you know, the idea that the opportunity to return is there. So, Miranda, just instantly, what's your reaction? You heard the news, and what was your first thoughts?
I was really excited to hear that Impact is now having a limited amount of seats available for Slammiversary. It's, you know, the biggest show of the summer, and also with the anticipation of who may show up in the matches that are going to be happening. I mean, having a crowd there is going to completely changed the tone of the event, and kind of also playing off of what happened through the Iron Man match with the with the wrestlers coming around the ring. Just the aura of the match, I think, really benefited from having a live audience there, whether they were the part of the roster or not. We've seen it, and we've started to see it, that having a live audience at an event is something that's been very, missed. It is something that can completely change the dynamic of a show. And it's something that, companies are all now looking forward to and trying to do with the best of their ability. So I applaud that Impact is taking their time with it, that they are, making a decision that's best for them. And I think fans are going to be excited to come to an Impact event, especially the first one that they're going to be able to go to in over a year is Slammiversary.
Yeah, agreed. This past weekend I was in the New Jersey, New York area for an independent show, Battle Club Pro, and one half of your Impact's Knockouts Tag Team Champions, Tasha Steele, was there. Tasha Steele is a friend, and the first thing I said to her is like, "Man, I cannot wait to see you back in person in the Impact Zone," and she shared the same sentiment. She was like, "I can't wait for you all to be back too." So it's just crazy we brought that up. It was good to see her, but it was crazy we brought that up. And bada boom, here we go. And to your point too, I also tip my hat to Impact in regards to how they've been handling protocols and safety protocols during the pandemic. Them and ROH, have been very strict about how they're going. They're still producing. Impact never stopped. I mean, ROH did take a break, but nonetheless, they continue to produce. And even in the verbiage from the press release, it says that they will continue to follow all state and local safety protocols with a limited number of fans being admitted into the venue. Now here, Texas, Tennessee is an open state. So they easily could have been did this. So the fact that they still were taking their time in doing so, means just how much they prioritize safety, and I just appreciate that. But the fans, I know we've been waiting. I've been waiting, and finally the opportunity is here, and they picked a good night to announce it, as has been said in the chat. And also they picked a good night for people to return, as in the Slammiversary. So everybody wins here. We haven't even talked about the specifics of the tickets here. So Miranda, we both have experienced Impact Live, and we know that atmosphere is like no other. From the talent, from the venues are always nice, and just from the bang for your buck. So with the purchase of this ticket, there is one set price. It is the super premium VIP ticket plan, which is $250. They're about $250. Well, it does include a lot of things. I'm just going to kind of go down the list really quick, and then you kind of give me your thoughts about it. But so you have the special ticket with the lanyard. You have the official Slammiversary T-shirt. You have a poster. You get post-match photo, ringside, and entrance ramp photography, which is cool. I really think that's really cool. And you get to actually do it with the X Division Championship belt. What else? You get some Impact swag. You get complimentary water, soft drink. I mean, you get to eat good. And then you get special type of protein bars from Rob Irvin. Of course, Gail King, the legendary.
Yes, Rob Irvin. So, yeah.
So, that's pretty cool. I mean, look. Say what you want. Nutrition bars for a show will get you through the show, because I'm trying to tell you, I said it on my podcast last night. Until you go to a venue and they tell you that they only serve beer and cookies, you'll be appreciative for anything that helps you get through the duration of the show.
That is also included. I mean, you think of venue prices are notoriously high for any type of drink or food. So, I mean, that's a lot of things included in the price. Now, it doesn't leave options for people who say, oh, I could live without all of that. But for what you do get, that's a pretty good deal for, not only the swag and the merchandise, but the photograph, the additional goodies, and just the entrance alone is something that I think it's kind of an interesting way for Impact to kind of provide more of an experience and how they package this. I'm curious to see if this is going to be something that's continuous for other events, because this is just for Slammiversary, and we'll be curious to see if they start opening tickets up for their tapings again like they used to, or are they really just going to stick more with the pay-per-views and then kind of see how things go. But you really do get a lot in that price.
Yeah, and I mean, if you've never been to an Impact show, like being in this atmosphere, in this capacity, means that you also get a chance to meet some of your favorite talent right there. I like to think, from the way I've been treated, that being in the Impact Zone feels like a family affair. They treat you good. You get to meet talent. Everyone speaks. I mean, Yeah, you just it's just one of those type of experience where you're just like, hey, for $250, you not just don't feel like a fan, you actually feel like
Mhm.
you're like part of the family here, and then
Yeah.
at the same time too, they put on a hell of a show.
Yeah, and you think about, other related deals through other promotions, for a lot of other companies, that's just the price of admission. That's just for
Yeah,
the price of getting there, not
yeah,
including, especially if you want to tack on a meet and greet, that's an additional, sum. So I think for what you're getting here, it's a pretty good reduced price when you add on to all of those components. But everyone too is in a you know saving type of mode. And so I do think that for some people, it can be a hefty price and you kind of have
yeah.
to, weigh your options. But again, from everything that you listed, that's a really good deal.
Yeah. I saw rumors. Well, it's not true yet, but yeah, I thought I saw somebody said that they were sold out, but tickets are still available. It's
Mhm.
flooded all over their social media, so you won't have a problem with that. But Slammiversary is going to be Saturday, July 17th, down in Nashville, Tennessee, which has amazing good food and obviously
Nashville
music.
is one of the coolest places I've ever been to. I love Nashville. It's a fun place. The environment, the entertainment, the food. So just being able to make a trip out of it to Nashville is definitely an added incentive for
Yeah.
anybody. But Nashville is a fantastic, fantastic city. And yeah, being able to then be able to go to an Impact event, the first one in over a year. I mean, come on.
Oh no, hold on. Let's be very clear. I'm still at kind of like disbelief here. They said this is the first time fans will be in attendance in 16 months. We were at the last show.
Yep.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, I mean, Hard to Kill 2020 was the last time I remember. And then they were in Mexico, I believe, shortly after that. So yeah, there really wasn't much that happened afterwards. So it's been
Golly.
a long time.
Golly. Yeah, because yeah, January, then if this is gonna be July, so that's 6 months there, then you add a year. Six well, four months plus, yeah.
Yeah.
So wow. Wow.
So I'm not
Time.
surprised. I mean, if the tickets haven't been sold out, they will shortly. If it's a limited
Yeah.
amount and you already have a really good fan base, a dedicated fan base that wants to be there, and it's Slammiversary, I mean, the match is already lined up for well, not anything yet, but that will be
Yeah.
announced. I'm sure will get people excited. But yeah, there hasn't even we're still having to have Against All Odds next week, as we don't have anything exactly lined up for Slammiversary, but just the anticipation, just knowing what could happen. I mean, I think fans are already like, I don't care what matches are happening.
Yeah.
I'm going to be there. But Impact will also put out one of the best lineups that they've had all year with Slammiversary.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, bro? I was there fans at that taping in March? I mean, I start to say that, but I can't remember was it fan. It's been a long time. That's
Yeah.
all I'm saying.
It's
By the
been
way, since you're in the chat, are you going? That's what I want to know.
oh
Are you going? Let me
yes.
know. But as I said before, there's not going to be a shortage of fans wanting to go. Impact has their loyalists. People
Mhm.
want to see them live. I think they picked some of the best and most unique smaller venues, and the experience in being in such is just a good time. And one thing, as a person who prides themselves on sound, the acoustics in some of these arenas that they use make the experience just so much better. I mean, you're
Yeah.
hearing sounds bounce all over the wall, and it's just, it really drives you into the ring. So I'll be on vacation, unfortunately. What do you mean,
Oh.
unfortunately, outside of the U.S.? I mean, where are you going? Depending on that location, this could be, this could be very much understood. As long as you're not going down to, if you say Tulum or Cancun, I'm not posting it. All right,
Ah.
just let you know. All right.
Well, I mean, it does. I can say more importantly that the fact that, now knowing what we know, that, there's going to be tickets, or there are tickets available, is kind of a bummer when you already have something pre-planned and you
Yeah.
can't
Oh,
go.
yeah, I have a conflict too, but I'm definitely sitting here at the drawing board, like, how am I going to work this out? But I definitely have a huge conflict on that week. So but it'll work out one way or another. But I am excited. I'm excited to know what's next as far as when fans can participate. As you said, is this a one-off or are they just going to do pay-per-views? They are slowly, what it sounds like, massaging fans back into it. Again, Tennessee is an open state, so they could do whatever, but they're still doing this. In my eyes, the better, more safe, strategical way.
They have to, and it's also a little bit seeing maybe what other companies are doing and how successful they are, and maybe modeling it afterwards. I mean, AEW has already had large attendance. WWE slowly coming back to it. MLW will be having their first live show in Philadelphia shortly before then on July 10th. So it doesn't hurt to kind of see what other companies are doing and seeing how well that's working first to then be able to model your own plan. But at the end of the day, they have to really think about safety. They have their own talent with their own families and travel that they have to consider. They have to consider the welfare of the fans that are going to be there, all of the staff that are helping put this show together. It's a lot. And so being able to see, what other companies do, how they set up their arenas and their live shows, and seeing what works best for them, because you also have to think about yes, the ticket price could be impacted by the fact that there is going to be a limited amount. Maybe they're only going to be able to put half of what a normal capacity, or even less. So that is also something to take into consideration with the ticket price. They're adding so much more because in order for this to be financially successful, you kind of have to figure out, how do we make it a financial success with a smaller amount of attendees than what they would have had 16 months ago.
Very true. And I usually don't go this way into how I go about podcasting or news or whatnot. But I will say, because I think it's with good confidence here, that, again, from speaking to Tasha Steele, she mirrors a lot of what you said. Impact has been very good into maintaining their safety protocols and making sure the welfare of the talent is handled. And there's that. You heard it from a talent's mouth. And that's just a great deal of confidence as us as fans, that we can say, like, hey, if they're taking care of them and they've waited this long in order to do so, I should be able to go here confidently and have a good time. So it was a no-brainer when I saw this. I was like, Tennessee, like, I don't care if it's an open state, send me there. You know what I mean? And I think my state's open, but I don't know. I was in New York when I was in New York last week, and that was like New Jersey. That was like a mind blower. Just how it was like an on and off switch. There was no like getting back comfortable. It was just like on, as if like I was in a third world, like I was from like a third world. And I came here like, oh, this world doesn't need masks to breathe, huh? Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, every state too is handling it differently still, and that's another factor that all companies have to consider, especially if they decide to travel. We've seen some companies stick with one area that's been successful for them. Others are now looking into traveling based off of states that are more open. So I think that, from what we know of Impact and what this, at least these nuggets of information is telling us, is that they feel comfortable getting open here or in Nashville. That's probably going to be their hub and their base for quite some time. Who knows when they're going to start traveling again? That seems to be a whole other phase. And in that, they're going to have to be strategic about where they go, how they film, what venues they select, how many people they allow. So I feel like really getting a good bearing and a good feeling and feel out of, how things go at Slammiversary is absolutely going to impact their decisions on future, travel, and also allowing more people to attend.
Yep. Two things I want to add. Again, I just because I'm looking over at my other computer. So yes, you can check out the entire Iron Man match between TJP and Josh Alexander as of 2 p.m. Eastern time. So if you're watching us live, once we conclude, then you should jump over into their waiting room, and that way you can see it in its full glory. And Josh Alexander also said, like, I thought the TV version was good. Wait till you see the stuff you miss. So
Oh,
I'm buying that.
yeah. Yeah, no, I think going back to what you said earlier about the way that they set this up, BTI is still kind of a fairly new program for Impact. It just launched earlier this year. And so to be able to have the beginning of the match on BTI, I think is bringing new eyes to that program.
Yeah.
They traditionally have had matches on there as well, but this is really the most high profile match that they've had on BTI since it started. So I think now fans didn't even know BTI probably existed
Yeah.
until this match was announced.
Or I was gonna say, or if you did know it that existed, did you know what the identity of it was?
Mm-hmm.
And was it a talk show? Was it extra content? What was it serious? Does it have implications on Impact? These are things that, when something's introduced, AEW has a new show coming, and that's what all the questions pertain to.
Yeah.
What does this show mean? And I think that because this show was introduced and wasn't really subjected to questions of that sort, you don't know what the identity is. And I think when you do put, like you said, a high profile match on there, you're thinking like, oh, I do need to check this out, because this does seem to have serious implications and or bleeds over into Impact, which is win-win.
And that's what I think maybe the biggest benefit for, at least now, where BTI can get its most bang for its buck, is to maybe bleed over into this week's Impact. It honestly reminds me of the formula that WWE used to have with Sunday Night Heat, when that
Everybody
used to bleed
bringing
over.
that up recently.
Yes, and bleeding into the pay-per-view. And so, that was for me as a kid, like, I so wanted to get into the pay-per-view based off of, how you had it with Sunday Night Heat. So I think that if they started to do that a little bit more often, I think it could absolutely help with storyline continuity. It could help with interest in, the weekly show. And it, gives them just a little bit extra time sometimes that they need in order to elaborate on stories, especially some of those middle and lower card stories that don't always get that airtime on a weekly basis. I personally think that's, the best utilization of it for now, as until you, get maybe you're building back up your roster, you have more stories, maybe more interviews that you tie into Impact on a weekly basis. But yeah, I absolutely agree. Such a good utilization of before the Impact. Really going to be one of the most memorable moments of that show's existence. And I think it was a great way to do something so unique that you can't do anywhere else. You can't do that on a pay-per-view. You can't do that on a weekly show. So, why not leverage that with, half and half between before the Impact and then Impact Weekly.
Yep, agreed. I absolutely agree. All right, so Slammiversary, and this is our 1B of our hot topic here, is that, this is typically the place where we're looking. I mean, now for sure, they created identity so that Slammiversary, you never know who may show up. Obviously, by last year, they drove the promos, they brought it back. We talked about this last week. But, interesting enough, they made a signing and announced it already in Steve Macklin, who is the significant other of Deonna Purrazzo, so it just makes sense that he would show up there. Ex-WWE. What was his WWE name? I forget.
I had it right. Oh, yes, I forget.
But nonetheless, one of the forgotten sons who's been foreshadowed inside of the promo. So maybe we have the renew, maybe we don't. But the fact that they have already said they signed or, date's coming, is not what I was expecting, but I still think it's cool. How do you feel about the move? How do you feel about him coming? And is this a good or bad thing? Or initially, just your reaction to it?
I can't say it's a bad thing. Steve Cutler, yes, okay, yes. So I can't think it's a bad thing because I haven't seen anything quite yet that makes me think that it's a bad decision. I think, again, Impact Wrestling is a great place to reinvent yourself. Ask everyone who's gone through and has had that kind of luxury to reinvent themselves with, a weekly television product. I think for Macklin, this could be a great way for not only people to get reintroduced to him, but honestly get introduced to him, because we didn't get that much of him when he worked in WWE. And we can also get a side of him that allows us to see more of his in-ring ability. Brian Myers is a great example of that, where we've seen him wrestle more in just the past year that he's been in Impact than we did in years of WWE. And we also got to see, a different side to him that's entertaining, that has had some great feuds and programs. But just the ability to kind of reinvent yourself. Now, there's also the possibility that the reinvention doesn't work and it still falls kind of flat. I mean, we've seen this whole hard edge drinking, serious character before, and you can only do it.
You mean currently?
Yes, yeah, currently. That you can only work so many times, or you can only have so many times on your roster. So if it doesn't gravitate, if fans don't gravitate to him now in this reinvention, that's also a bigger sign of, maybe just, you're not meant to have fans. I don't know. I feel like that's, but I think it's too early to tell. But I do also agree it's interesting that they did this now. I do think that maybe that leaves more room for Slammiversary to have other people appear.
Yeah.
And I don't want. I feel like if they had to kind of pick and choose, maybe some bigger names are going to be announced, or if this were to happen at Slammiversary, it probably would get lost in the shuffle. And compared to some of the other names that they're going to bring in, so this may be strategically good, that he has his own time and his own vignettes and his own focus prior to Slammiversary, because it could have been very easily that he would get lost in the shuffle.
Oh, you nailed it there. I mean, first of all, the Forgotten Sons, all of them completely forgotten. They have no clue what that was. And Steve Cutler, I have no clue what the gimmick was as far as him being part of that stable. So he absolutely comes in clean here for me. Whoever he wants to be, this is his opportunity. And I think, too, maybe this was the idea of saying, like, he might need the most work because maybe he is a good wrestler. I don't know. Maybe he's a good asset to the roster. I don't know. But we can all for sure say, what is your gimmick, sir? Yeah. What is your
who are you?
Claim to stardom? And maybe he has to build that up. Yeah, who are you? And Slammiversary is one of those like, oh my God, I know this person thing. But if you say, oh my God, I know him, like you're lying.
Yeah, I mean, again, very similar to what happened with Brian Myers. His vignettes came, I believe, after Slammiversary. So, we were able to focus on him individually and this new reinvention and new identity away from the big names that popped up in Slammiversary. And I absolutely agree. At Slammiversary, that's mainly for people who you already know, who already have a following, who already have, a fan base, who already have, a pretty well-known career. Anybody else that they kind of bring in that maybe isn't slightly as popular or is going through a pretty big reinvention, I think it's smart to bookend them in either the before or after Slammiversary.
Yep. So, and for me, I was a little bit surprised because I was like, oh man, they just wasted a big signing just out of nowhere, because that's what everybody's kind of keening towards Slammiversary for. It's like the Royal Rumble. Like, we want to know who's coming out. Slammiversary is now like, well, who did you all sign? So, but my opinion has been swayed by your obviously your logic, and this is why you're like obviously really good at what you do. But yeah, maybe it's because like, hey, they identified him as not a wait, get him in there now type of person. So, and that could be good. So we'll see. Well, anything else we need to talk about? We talked about the Iron Man match a little bit. We talked about obviously the news of the fans returning to Slammiversary, and then of Macklin, who is going to be coming to the Impact Zone a little bit sooner than Slammiversary, it seems like. So, I think that wraps it.
That
What you
I
think?
wraps it up. Yeah, I mean, I think next week we'll definitely be talking more about the go home show before Against All Odds,
Yep.
and some developments that may be happening for that pay-per-view, especially the main event. There was some little teasers this week that the main event it
Could be a
may
triple
change.
threat.
Maybe
Mm-hmm.
a triple threat. So we're going to know more next week. And they also kind of alluded to maybe Tony Khan making an appearance again on
That guy.
Impact Wrestling. So we'll see what happens next week. But, they're really gunning for it as they, we get to Against All Odds.
Yep. 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 Well, as always, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, we have this kind of irregular schedule when we're going live on Fridays, but the only way you can actually know 100% when we do go live is by subscribing and hitting the notification bell. And then that way you will see when we are live, and that way you can be a part of the conversation. Let us know your thoughts about this week's hot topic and so on. But yep, that'll do it. If you are going to the show live, let us know.
Yeah,
I
tell
want to know
us.
who's going to be there. We're going to talk prep a little bit, but we'll see. But nonetheless, that will do it for this week. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. And we'll catch you all each and every Friday with our hot topic coming out of this week's and each and every week of Impact Wrestling on Access TV. Thank you for tuning in, folks.
Bye-bye.